I called the 9 out. I said I was going to do it. I've been saying it for a while, and I did it. Somebody had to do it, and yeah, I've had enough. I've had absolutely enough of this vague, wishy-washy rubbish. And I'm gonna go really deep into it and explain why. Because, like I said earlier, there's a bit more going on here in terms of the story of Destiny as a whole, and how the factions are treated as a whole in the franchise. But that being said, the 9 have this coming, and they are more than deserving of it. So to begin, I want to talk about why I'm calling them out. And to begin that, I need to ask a question. What is also... Sorry, just real quick. When I've been editing my VODs of these, I've noticed my microphone quality is not like the best, and there's like a bit of an echo and all that. And I do apologize for that. I think it's just the way my room is, and the fact that I talk a bit louder in these streams than in my videos. And then obviously I can't really edit like my audio, whatever. So, yeah, eventually I do plan on getting a better microphone and like better, noise canceling stuff in my room. But for now, we make do with what we got. But it is something I'm aware of, and if it's ever annoying, I do apologize. But anyway, my question to you: what is the point of the 9? What is the point of the 9 when it comes to the story of Destiny? Because as much as Destiny is supposed to be a world, and Bungie says it's a living world, which it doesn't really feel like it, but as much as it's a world, every single faction, every single character, to a certain extent, some greater than others, some more easily visible or others, are pieces on the board. They all have purposes. And roughly speaking, you have your enemies and you have your allies. So again, what is the point of the 9? Back in Destiny 1, the 9 had pretty much zero presence in the game. The closest thing to the 9 we ever really got was Xur. And even then it was super vague. We have this weird looking dude with the tentacle face, and yeah, that's about it. That was our first introduction into the 9. And then when people began going through the Grimoire cards and trying to figure out what the 9 were there, again, it's just a lot of confusion, because you get like 5 different things that the 9 could or couldn't be, and they all contradict each other, and it's all weird. And you have the one explanation saying that they're remnant of the darkness that were like punished by the Traveler or whatever, rebuked. And then you have other versions that they're like a group of ghosts, just all kinds of random stuff. And again, I would say the only significant influence that the 9 ever had inside of Destiny 1 was the fact that they did release Skolas. And to be fair, that did impact things. You had the House of Wolves, you had, I guess as an extension of that and as a result of that, are getting close to the Queen. But that's about it. The 9 didn't really, do that much in Destiny 1. And maybe I'm forgetting something, but I'm thinking about, main expansions and main stories and stuff like that. And then we come to Destiny 2. And Destiny 2 is where things begin to get different. But before we get into Destiny 2, I'm just going to ask this question again. What is the point of the 9? And I'm going to pull up a picture for you. That's not it. That is definitely not it. This is certainly not the picture. That just happens to not be it at all. I didn't put it in the folder like I was supposed to. Oh no. That can be easily resolved. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to put these two in this folder just so I don't have to... Okay. Replace. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Nice. And I will show you the picture now. Okay, so here we have our picture. And this is for Destiny 2. And as you can see, we began to get a bit more development with the 9 in Destiny 2. Now, for the record, I want to be really clear here. This stream is not going to be about us going super deep into the 9 lore and trying to figure them out. Because that's the trap. And we're going to get to that. But this was clearly for Trials of the 9. And we were pretty excited. I thought it was really cool. I actually think that in terms of the aesthetic and everything else, Destiny 2 Trials of the 9 was actually better than Trials of Osiris. Especially because the Destiny 1 Lighthouse is 10 times better than the Destiny 2 Lighthouse. The Lighthouse simulation. And yeah, we have some really cool art. And that is also how we were introduced to the character known as this one, the Emissary. And again, who is she? She looks really weird, no offense. And she's got the cool looking eyes thing going on, and okay. And so we were kind of excited, at least I was, you know, okay, cool. And long story short, nothing has really happened. And so I will ask you again, what is the point of the 9? And at least in Destiny 1, the point of the 9 in Destiny 1, in my opinion, was to be this vague, powerful faction that very much had the ability and the power requirements to be a major player in the game, but their time had not come yet. But when we move into Destiny 2, when we begin getting our Trials of the 9, when we begin getting the Emissary and all of this stuff, this is a proper introduction, at least the beginning of a proper introduction into the faction. And so what you begin to see is a faction whose whole point of their existence seems to be this vagueness beginning to get stripped away. And the natural evolution of this vagueness disappearing and this information coming out is, again, that once we get enough information, then they're going to actually do stuff in the main story. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is, why am I calling them out? And the reason why I am calling the 9 out is because as a faction, as a unit for storytelling, if that's even a valid term, it is now because I said so, they are failing, and they are failures, and they are useless, and they have pretty much hit the point of irrelevancy. It's the exact same reason, and I know this is like the third stream in a row where I've mentioned this, it's the same main reason why I always bash on Beyond Light. Not just because I didn't like it, but because it did not fulfill its purpose, and it's the same with the 9. Now fortunately the 9 were not as important as Beyond Light, but the fact is they are not fulfilling their purpose, which is to do anything. They're not doing anything. And what's insulting about this, them not following their purpose, is it isn't even that they have been set up for anything specific in the story. It isn't that they were supposed to do they weren't supposed to be a part of any specific event. They weren't supposed to help any specific character. There wasn't supposed to be a prophesied time when they were supposed to come in. The reason why them not fulfilling their purpose at all is so insulting is because not only are they not helping us, they are literally not helping themselves. Not only are they useless in terms of our needs, they are useless for their needs too. And so, at the end of the day, the track record has been laid out, the errors and the failures have been adding up, and we're at the point when the point of the 9, their whole vagueness thing, is now no longer an acceptable feature of the faction, and it cannot hide the fact that they are pretty much useless and just kind of put to the side. But it wasn't always that way. It was not always that way. Can you move? Okay. We had a golden age. Now, this was a golden age for Destiny as a whole, right? But it was a golden age for the 9, and that was Forsaken. So yes, we had Trials of the 9. But we didn't actually get that much information. Again, it was just kind of the beginning of a proper introduction for the faction. And then we had Curse of Osiris. Nothing really happening there. Fair enough. Warmind, as far as I can remember, nothing that, substantial. But then we get Gambit. And Gambit, as we're later told and shown, is connected to the 9. They have an interest in this. And then with Joker's Wild, Season of the Drifter, that is when it really, really kicks up. Can we... There we go. Shut up. Now, the one thing that Base Forsaken did, of course, show is that they were working with the Queen. And we already kind of suspected as much. We knew from Destiny 1 that the 9 and the Queen and the Awoken kind of had a bit of an agreement and a bit of a... not an alliance, but a bit of a... I don't know. They were on talking terms. And with Forsaken, we learned through the one Queen's Court mission, or whatever, it wasn't really a mission, but more of just like a cutscene, that they were helping Mara prepare for something. And that something was obvious, and it was the Black Fleet. And this was another thing that added on to the building up of the pyramids for 3 years. Again, the pyramids were revealed day 1 of Destiny 2. And you had your DLCs, and you had your stories, but consistently, the pyramids were being built up. Everybody knew that they were on their way, and every so often, they were very clearly reminded of that. The easiest way of doing that is showing the other characters in the world also being aware of that, and also preparing for them. So the 9 are preparing for the pyramids. And this was explained a bit better later on, but in Base Forsaken you could kind of guess why that was. Because the pyramids were clearly coming to bring a second collapse. The pyramids were clearly coming to do something to the Traveler, either destroy it or destroy us. And very clearly that went against what the 9 wanted, and so they were helping Mara, or Mara was helping them, get ready for this. And there's this talk of move the asset into position beyond the grave of the first flag. Who cares? Who knows what that is? And then, from Base Forsaken, we come to Season of the Drifter, Joker's Wild, whatever it is. And we get the Invitations of the 9 missions. And we get the Reckoning activity. And both of them served different purposes. Reckoning was between us and the 9. Invitations was more of... Invitations of the 9, I want you to imagine you're in a season, right? And you go to Mara. Let's say next season you go to Mara. Okay. And you talk to her. And then you leave her, and it tells you to go to the helm and go to the terminal. And then you talk to her from the terminal, but she's talking to somebody else. And so you're awkwardly in this Discord server listening to the two characters talk. Think about that, but with a better budget, and that's kind of what Invitations of the 9 was. I understand I may have ruined the seasonal experience for you now. I apologize. I apologize. But that's kind of what it was. And for the most part, Invitations was us learning very little about the Nine. The two key things that I can remember and that I know of with Invitations of the Nine. Well, the three key things. The first key takeaway is the basic one, which is that they know about the pyramids and that they're preparing for them. The second one is that they are trying to learn about us, and they're trying to learn about, I guess, humanity and, I don't know, the way their minds work. They aren't able to comprehend certain behaviors and whatnot, and it's something, right? But in the big scheme of things, it's kind of pointless. And then the third thing is also kind of pointless, but it's learning about the relationship between Drifter and the character who would later become the emissary. And then as for Reckoning, it kind of just felt like, I don't know, man. I kind of felt like a lab rat, you know? I'm getting put in this room and just said, go kill stuff and we're going to watch you and take notes. That's kind of all it was, I'm going to be honest with you. That's really, that was kind of it. Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time, we had the link to Gambit. So Drifter is specifically instructed to keep running Gambit. And and the thing is, it's not just that he's instructed to keep doing Gambit. He is literally given the means. I'll go back to the... He is literally given the means. Gambit, and it's, well, whatever state it's in, right? Rest in peace. It wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the Nine. Okay. You know what? Okay. I said that we would probably be better off without the Nine if they never existed. If the Nine didn't exist, we wouldn't have Gambit. Now, maybe you don't like Gambit, and maybe you do like Gambit. I still think that's kind of funny, and I kind of think that's a bit of a win. But anyway. But long story short, Gambit is tied to the Nine's plans. Okay, cool. What's more is in that same period then as well. We're getting even more Nine lore. We have the Nine lore about that, what's her name? The Cryptarch. And she is obsessed with the Nine and figuring out how they work, and she interrogates Zur. She straight abuses an Ahamkara bone in the city and gets banished, and long story short, gets yeeted into the Nine's realm by them. And that is where we actually just get some straight up information. That is where we learn about how the Nine are split into two factions. That is how we learned that one of the Nine was straight up responsible for Gaul causing as much damage as he did. And that is where we learn what their ultimate goal is. Their goal is to get beyond their current state of existence, which is them being really tied to the planets. And it's never straight up said that they are the planets. I'm not sure exactly what they are. I don't think anybody can give you a straight up solid answer on that, but they exist, I would argue, in a more spiritual sense, in a non-physical way, right? And they're very much tied down and anchored to the planets. And outside of their realm of the Nine, they don't really have much influence. Not really. Now, that doesn't excuse them for not helping us, for the record. If they can send Zur to give us exotics, like, bro, they can make something up and send it to us, okay? Okay. So, yeah, now we know what the Nine want. So, we have, what is the point of the Nine? It's the whole vagueness, the mystery. But now with Destiny 2, that's beginning to change, because now we're seeing that they're getting ready to directly get involved in a future event, which is the pyramids. So all this time, the most they ever really did was Skolas. Now we're getting Gambit, Reckoning, Invitations of the Nine, and it's all connected to the pyramids. Everything is building up. Remember what I said in the beginning. The Nine are super vague and you don't know anything about them, but they are powerful enough to qualify as very powerful players in the game. very powerful pieces on the board. And so they are prioritizing the really big threat, which is, of course, the pyramids. And so that is why I'm saying that this whole, oh, well, their purpose is being vague and mysterious, is now no longer acceptable. Because Forsaken moved them out of that category. And we began to get more and more information. But not just information, we began to get plans. And what's also important is that with that lore in Season of the Drifter, we have that purpose, which is 1, try and escape the state of being that they're in. And 2, keep the solar system safe. Because if the planets go bye-bye, they go bye-bye. And those two things are connected to the pyramid race and the pyramids coming in. Because if the pyramids come in and they destroy the Traveler, they lose. And obviously, now that we know about the veil and the linking and all that, if the final shape gets what it wants, or sorry, not the final shape, sorry, if the witness gets what it wants, the 9 lose. If the witness kills us all, the 9 lose. So we have the 9's goals and their priorities. And we now have a glimpse of their plans, and the two are aligned. I mean, obviously, this is basic, right? But it makes sense. I'm spelling this out for you. This is all contained within a few months of Forsaken. All of this is in a few months of Forsaken. You have 3 years of Destiny 1. You get a couple months in D2, and we have this much information. And the reason why is simple. They were being prepared, and they were preparing to be a major player. And that was the golden age of the 9. Ever since Season of the Drifter, it has been pitiful. So this is where we get into the strikes, okay? Listen, I'm not a very patient guy when it comes to characters, right? I will either immediately like them or dislike them. But characters who I don't really have an opinion on, or even that I think are cool, right? I won't just hate them immediately depending on what they do. I'll kind of give them a bit of a leeway, right? There are, of course, exceptions to the rule. We have our infamous one-strike character, right? The one-strike wonder.
Oh.
I want you to move when you're not... Wait, what? Okay. What button did I press differently to make you change that time? I don't understand. This is the one-strike wonder. I don't care if I like you. I don't care if you're really cool. I don't care if you're really powerful. Or even if there's no lore about you at all. If I know that you have deserted humanity in probably its, I would argue, its most important battle, that's it. You're out. You're done. I don't care. I don't care. I don't really care. And this is the one-strike wonder. So we do have exceptions to the rule. But we also have, and I didn't actually put this in the, I didn't put this in the folder. I should have put this in the folder. Guys, why didn't you tell me to put this in the folder? We are experiencing technical difficulties, Guardian. And of course it's a WebP, and so I can't just open it. I have to convert it. Why do you have to be a Bingus? Why do you have to be a Bingus? Convert. Do it. Do it. Thank you. Open Sesame. There we go. Rasputin hit his 3 strikes. GG. I mean, he's literally out. Okay, like no pun intended. He's done. He's done. He's GG. But yeah, Rasputin literally had one job. Literally had one job. Literally, it was his job, and he failed it several times. And not only did he fail, but he tried to hype us up and make us have faith in him before failing each time. Let's go over what the strikes were for the night. And if you watched my video, then you already know where I'm going with this. But I'm going to go into more detail. Do you know what I feel like? I feel like in The Incredibles, that one scene where Mr. Incredible gets out of his car and he tries to close his car door and it won't close. And then he finally slams the car door and it closes and then the window shatters. That's how I feel right now. Oh, now it works. Okay. Strike 1. The collapse. Now, I am pretty confident that the 9 existed before the collapse. Okay? There's lore that goes for whether, like, for both, it being yes or no. But I think majority of it is yes, for sure. The 9 did nothing to stop the collapse. Now maybe they hadn't figured out that they needed the Traveler. Maybe they had zero interest in us. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't excuse the fact that our system probably would have gone bye-bye. The whole universe would have probably gone bye-bye, or at least changed in a way that would have really not suited them. But let's say they did. Let's just say, hypothetically, they were interested in the Traveler and us and all that. They didn't really do a great job of keeping us alive. Also, in case you're curious, this is from a scrapped alternative version of. I don't know. I don't know if this was. I think this might have been like for an intro cinematic for Destiny 2. I don't think this was the Traveler's vision. But anyway. Yeah, they didn't really do a good job of keeping us alive. So, pretty, let's strike 1. But that was before we were around. Maybe. I don't know when we died. Whatever. Okay, fine. Strike 1, I'm still counting it, but they kind of have leeway. Oh, also, actually, real quick. There's no excuse for this. Bro, why is it that Mara can make them annoyed just by having her brother's ships go too close to their territory, so they release Skolas? And then the Vex go and do this, and they're like, I don't know, I don't know what, it's whatever. Bro. Let me just put it like this, right? If you think that this is not a big deal. We know from the dark future in Curse of Osiris that they do something to our sun. Now, I don't know if it's really that bad, but my point is that, like, they also actually, sorry, Mercury's core is, like, gone. I think this is a really big threat to the 9, but they did nothing. So they straight up lost Mercury. GG. Like, I don't understand. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't understand it, man. So yeah, strike one. But this is the big one. This is really the big one right here. Because we've established that yes, they do want us, and the Traveler mainly, that it's in their interests to keep us alive, that they want to keep the system safe. Okay. Not only do they do nothing to stop Gaul, but one of them straight up lets his fleet come in and destroys our satellites. Also, I'm just gonna say, if they can destroy satellites, then how come they... Okay, you get what I'm trying to say. And I know some of you are thinking, or maybe you would say this, but it was just one of them. I don't care. They're called the Nine. They are a group. It's not hard to keep track of 8 other things. I don't know what they are. That is their fault. I don't care if it's just the one. That is all on them. That is on all of them. All of them. The fact that they allowed that to happen. The fact that... And you know what? You know what? In this situation, this was directly the Nine's fault. I want you to look at this picture, and I want you to remember that this is directly the Nine's fault. You would think that the Nine would look at this after punishing the one or whatever, and they'd be like, do you know what? Not only does this go against literally everything that we want, not only is this going to theoretically put the whole solar system in danger, but this was actually our fault. We're kind of obligated to do something. Like our bad guys, but you know, this is our peace offering. Here, we'll help you this way. And I don't think Trials of the Nine counts as that. So Gaul comes in, kills a ton of people, but he also kills a ton of Guardians too. I know of at least the fact that the first Titan Order, the Firebreak Order, which they are the guys that literally will fight to the death on the walls, they got like almost completely destroyed, if not entirely. These are losses that cannot be just replaced. So that's a huge chunk of Guardians and civilians gone. And they never say this, right? They never give you the stats. But at least for Guardians, because Guardians would have been actually like fighting, in my opinion, I would not be surprised if over 50% of Guardians were killed in the Red War. I wouldn't be surprised. You consider how many Guardians died in the city, but then how many Guardians were literally like fighting in strikes, or were on patrol, or just fighting in general, and then their light leaves them. It's literally Order 66, where you're out in a dangerous environment and then, oh no, you're screwed. And yeah, I think that would have killed over 50% just from them losing their light. But regardless, in the city, yeah, a lot of Guardians, in my opinion, died. Then the Traveler gets imprisoned. Not only does that make things worse for the Guardians and humanity, but that's also then, like, the Nine now have lost any hope or access to the light. That's their whole plan, and their whole goal now unobtainable. Unless the nerds in the other group manage to make the black hole or whatever. But it gets worse. Because then Gaul comes along, and he begins to siphon the light out of the Traveler. In my opinion, we don't know if the Traveler has an infinite source of light. I don't know, right? If it does have a finite amount of light, he probably would have drained it all. But regardless, he was a god. Like, actually. Like, he was never given the chance to do anything, but that is like... I think Beneath the Gardener and the Wind were that God Gaul was probably the most powerful character in the universe. Underneath the Winnower and the Gardener. Yes, that thing, the light being, could beat Rolk easily. Bro, it's like 25 times the size of Rolk. On a bad day, right? You think Rolk's gonna stomp that? What's he gonna do? Stomp Gaul's light toe and then give it an ingrown toenail? Like, that's the most amount of damage it's gonna do. So again, that's a severe threat to the 9. And then finally, you have the Almighty, which is pointed at our sun. Now, to be fair, there's actually a chance that if with Gaul winning and getting the light, that he would have ordered the Almighty to stop the whole process. Who's to say he doesn't just pack up and leave the city with the light and then just have the system blown up for the giggles? So not only is this, like, the plan for the 9 lost, now their existence is directly threatened. Strike 2. And again, they were directly responsible for this. I don't have a picture for this, do I? I'm a bingus. I keep doing this, man. Long story short. The Golden Age of 9 lore. Not only do we learn about information about the 9, but we actually gain their plans and their goals, which align in the form of them resisting and helping us resist the Pyramid fleet. It didn't really happen. Season of Arrivals happens. Rasputin, who promised that, oh, I am so powerful, loses instantly. And the 9 sit back and do nothing while the pyramids take 4 destinations. Not only are the pyramids literally a threat to humanity and the Traveler, not only are the pyramids, like, what was it? They're a threat to humanity and the Traveler. They are literally a threat to the 9 because they took 4 planets, and I guess whatever 9 are attached to those destinations are fine, I guess. I don't know. But we don't know that. Like, why would they just... do you think they actually knew what would happen if the planets got taken? You think they were just like, oh, we have no idea, but we're just going to find out? Maybe it'll kill us, maybe it won't. Let's just roll the dice. It's stupid. So not only does it go against them wanting us to be alive, and the Traveler being alive, but it actually threatens their existence directly. And finally, this was literally what they were preparing for. The whole time. It was to stop the pyramids, or at least try. And what do? They give us prophecy, which is basically just them being like, yeah, these 4 destinations are going to go bye-bye. Also, we're super vague and mysterious. Also, the light and darkness are really just 2 sides of the same coin. Isn't that trippy, guys? Whoa. There is no good or evil. It's all gray. Whoa. Yeah, we're kind of, you know, failing at our plans, and we might actually lose like 4 out of the 9 or something. But it just, like, guys, this dungeon. Wow, look what we can do. Look what we can do inside of our realm. But we can't do anything outside of that. Wow. That's strike 3. They do nothing. Nothing that's useful or helpful in any way, shape, or form. The Queen doesn't do anything either. For that matter. And then we have the final strike. And no, it is not the Taniks Ascended strike that they're currently working on during the final shape delay. Guardian face Taniks the Ascended. Literally, he has the light and he has all 3 darkness subclasses. Boom. Lightfall happens. The Nine do nothing when the pyramids... They lit the pyramids, get all the way through the system, and all the way to Earth. No, this was... I'm not going to lie, this was a pretty garbage cinematic in my opinion, because the pyramids did nothing. Now, okay, I'm not trying to bash on the people who made the cinematic, right? I'm talking about like a... Okay. You know what I'm trying to say. Like, there's, like, what you see, humanity has 3 ships, 4 ships, what, and then it's just, where are these explosions even coming from? Who's even causing these explosions, bro? What's going on? Anyway, but still they do nothing. So, how many Guardians and civilians, and I guess, you know, the alliance between the Fallen, the Cabal, and all of that. How many of them died? Who knows? But then there's the big problem. They just sit and do nothing while the Witness goes inside and gets its final shape. Now, it took the Witness, it might take him more than a year to get his final shape with the way things are going, but if we were being completely realistic, I think it should have only taken the Witness at most a couple of days to get whatever it wanted. Now, there are theories that this was actually the beginning cinematic for the final shape. That would make sense. I would be okay with this being the beginning cinematic of an expansion where this same story gets concluded. Regardless, unless the 9 literally saw into the future, and they knew that the one reality where we won involved them letting the Witness get inside the Traveler, that is a massive failure on their part, and you gotta remember. No, actually, real quick. I know I'm kind of going on a bit long, but real quick. In this instance, the 9 had a chance to redeem themselves in a massive way. And it was by helping us get into the Traveler. And that is why, and I had said this to friends, and maybe I said it on stream, and I think I said it in a video too, this is why I really wanted next season to be about the 9. Because this would act as their redemption. They don't. Once we get inside the Traveler, there's nothing they can do to help us once we're inside. So, yeah, that's Strike 4, and, like, if we weren't just the best in the world, you know, if we weren't just the absolute, just the best, the 9 are basically doomed. So those are the 4 strikes of the 9. These are 4 different times where they have done nothing, and sometimes made things worse, that not only go against their goals, but that threaten their entire existence. And again, before... Why? Oh, this is... And it's all his fault, too. Sorry. I'm sorry, Chief. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Forsaken was about them preparing for all of this. Now, maybe not the collapse, sure, whatever, but at least for strikes 3 and 4, nothing. And so, knowing that next season is not going to be about the 9, I am calling them out. 100% I'm calling them out. And my final point that I have listed here is the future of the 9. Like final shape or beyond. Again, they aren't helping us get into the Traveler. And once we're inside the Traveler, I really don't think that you're going to hear anything about them at all. Because they can't do anything. They can't. Bro, if they have minimal influence outside of their realm, do you think that they can have any influence inside of the Traveler? I don't think so. And then, beyond that, do you know what's going to happen? Bungie is going to circle back to the first point. What is the point of the 9? from Destiny 1. Be vague and mysterious, and slowly give us more information over time. Oh, and before I forget, dude, Dares of Eternity counts for nothing. I don't give a crap about the pony. The pony is a waste of space, and it's just goofy comedy that is just fluff. The 9 were used for filler fluff. That's all it was. I don't count that for anything. Bro, we're straight up about to lose the Traveler, and they're putting on a game show. I'm losing brain cells. I'm losing my mind. I would not be surprised if after the final shape, and after the first 3 episodes, we may be getting an episode about the 9, and it's, ooh, learn about the truth of the 9, and meet them one by one, and unfortunately, there was a point in time where I actually would have cared. Now I don't care. Because now I'm going to look at them the way I look at the Neomuni on Neptune and be like, you could have helped us and you didn't. You could have helped us and you didn't. And if you were not capable of helping, then why did you make a show of it that you were preparing to do something? And so I'm calling them out. They're useless. They're incompetent. They're not to be relied on. And quite frankly, we would be better off if they didn't exist. But before I end this, I just want to say, real quick, that this is an indication and a symptom of a larger problem. I didn't really say this in my video. I actually edited it out. But the 9 are a fictional group. The reason why things happen, and the reason why things don't happen, is because of the writers. And the reality is that the writers don't know how to handle the 9. And what I mean by that is that they don't know where to put them and they don't know how to use them. I will tell you what I think was supposed to happen. I think that golden age of the 9 information didn't happen in the Forsaken era for accident. I think that they were being prepared to be a major player in Destiny 3. And I know we kind of talked about this last week with Destiny 3 stuff and yada yada yada, but again, it's pretty much confirmed Destiny 3 was in the works right after Forsaken started. And so that was their time to kind of begin to, I guess, build things up, in my opinion. Again, this is just my opinion, right? But when you look at the fact that after the Forsaken era, they drop off the face of the earth, except for really just really insignificant things, it does seem like the plan for the 9 on Bungie's end kind of got derailed. Because I personally don't believe that when they were building up the 9 so much in Forsaken, that they were thinking the whole time that they were just going to never do anything really significant with them again afterwards. So I believe that the 9 got derailed. And this is different, in my opinion, to Rasputin. Because I think Rasputin was always kind of useless, to be fair. What the 9 are similar to, however, are the Vex. What are the point of the Vex? The point of the Vex are to be an enemy faction who are vast and mysterious and super vague. And you have some basic information about them and what they want, but they're just very alien. They're the most alien faction out of all of them. Have we had like any major Vex expansions since Curse of Osiris? that also went into super big detail about like them and their origins and all of that. No, not really. The most we ever really got, in my opinion, was the Beyond Light Collector's Edition, talking about the closed Bray stuff and the Vex on Europa. What is the purpose of the Vex? Because they're just supposed to be the vague, mysterious alien faction? They're just used whenever it's convenient. They're used as filler. That is it. They are used when it is convenient. And the same has now become true for the 9. The 9 seemingly don't really have a story anymore. The 9 are just used when it's convenient. The issue is that this isn't about convenient. This isn't about when you can use some 9 assets to make some filler. The issue is now you have built them up to be present at certain events. And because your story with the 9 got derailed, you haven't put them there, and so that completely breaks their narrative, in my opinion. Now, this hasn't happened with the Vex because the Vex don't really have a story. Now, allegedly they did in vanilla Destiny 1, like OG Destiny 1, but that's different. So that is why I'm calling them out. I am calling out the 9 because the 9, in my opinion, have been, for lack of a better word, kind of discarded in the real world side of things. And in-game, if everything in-game was not because of, the real world and writing and all of that, this is the history of the faction and whatever. I am calling them out because they're useless. They have proven themselves to be useless. They sometimes cause more harm than good, and overall, I am no longer really interested in their capabilities as players in the game. Do I care about learning more about them? Sure, of course. Why not? Of course. And I didn't. But like I could go really deep into trying to figure out stuff about the 9, But that's supposed to be done while you're excited for seeing what are they going to do next. That's done now. There is nothing. If the 9 don't show up and do something crazy next season, or they do something crazy in Forsaken, there is nothing that the 9 can do that will redeem them. So, like, okay, fine, I'll learn about them, and that's kind of cool, but I have no excitement. So that's why I'm calling them out. They're in the same category as Rasputin. They're officially useless. I think it's an absolute shame. I think it's just, the way things are just kind of going on over at Bungie. And I know, okay, I want to be really clear. This is my final thing that I want to say. I can appear harsh towards the narrative team. And I want to say that I understand that it's very difficult to, like, I don't think anybody is in directly a position to put blame on specific people or whatever, because at the end of the day, the narrative people have their own bosses. The narrative team can make the best storylines, but somebody who's not in the narrative team, who is above them, can have them scrap it and make something that's less quality and, less, I guess, decent. But when I do seem harsh, and when I do specifically mention the writing and the narrative team, it is because I am trying to make it very clear what the real world reason is. And the real world reason why the 9 are the way they are, this is a purely writing thing. And this is, in my opinion, because they had an original purpose in how they were going to be used in the overall story and the overall game. And in my opinion, because that got derailed, I think that really threw the writing off track. And I don't think the narrative team, I don't think they really know where they can put them in and how they can fit them in. And I understand that, and I sympathize with that. You only have a certain amount of bandwidth, you only have a certain amount of campaign missions, you only have a certain amount of lore books. And to a certain extent, yes, you can make 9 lore books as much as you want, but again, this is a faction that has earned itself in cutscenes. And so, you know, you got to try and find the right time to fit that. And you can find yourself perpetually just not in a position to be able to do that. And so I sympathize with the narrative team. Do I think that there are times when there is just bad writing? Yes. 100% yes. But I do not think that that bad writing is always 100% because of bad writers. There's a very, very big difference. Again, I said it before last stream, and I'll say it again. If you take the narrative team and you make them scrap an expansion story a couple of months before the expansion and you get them to make one on the spot, it's probably going to be a lesser quality than the previous one. It has a higher chance of that. And so yes, maybe I will say that is bad writing, but it doesn't necessarily always reflect on the writers. Now, some things, in my opinion, kind of are easier to pick out than others, but when it comes to the 9, yes, I think that they are the result of unfortunate writing. But I can also see some of the things that may have been happening in the background that made it really difficult to do the 9 well. And so I honestly, as much as I'm calling out the 9, I think the 9 as a story and as a group of characters or an entity, I think it's kind of a tragedy. And I wouldn't be surprised if people at Bungie and the narrative team are also kind of just disappointed with how it turned out. I'm sure they might have wanted it to be better, you know. So in the future, and for this, you know, whenever I kind of sound harsh towards the writers, I'm not attacking them. I'm just making it clear that it is important to differentiate that this isn't just how these characters are acting. They're acting or they're not acting because of the writing, right? But again, I'm not going after the writers directly. And that's basically it. That's everything. I know I kind of rambled on there, but I think that this could be one of the last times we really ever talk about the 9, because I just don't see any substantial, and I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I will make a video saying I was wrong about the 9. I will apologize to the 9, okay? And I will tell you what I will do, okay? If I am wrong about the 9, I will go and I will buy as much from Xur as I can until I am no longer able to. That'll do it. But I think that this is kind of the future, right? Well, this is the past, but you know, I think the doing nothing and being the vague, kind of goofy and mysterious for the sake of it, I think that that is where they have been returned to, and that is where I think they will stay. So that is my TED Talk about the 9 and why I'm calling them out. Thank you for that, GG.